Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Denise Cruz. I'm a librarian at Regent. I know some of you from joining before or from emailing with you. Thank you for joining me. Um, Today, we're talking about narrowing down your research topic and your search results. So, sort of two topics, but both having to do with narrowing. So I know that for a lot of people at this time in the semester, you're trying to narrow down a topic that you've been doing a little bit of research on, thinking about. So I'm going to try to share some tips for how to do that and how to do a really efficient search. And we have a lot of new programs at the library, so I'm going to show you how to use our new tools. And please feel free to email me, call me, set up a Zoom meeting with me, come in and see me if you are on campus, um, or anything like that. And I can just show you these or help you do research on your topic. Um, so I'm sorry about my PowerPoint. It says subtitle there. That's a little awkward. I guess I should have written in my name or something. I don't know why it saved the word subtitle there because I chose not to write a subtitle. But we're going to start by talking about the problem we're trying to solve. So the problem we're trying to solve is too broad of a topic and too broad of a search. So why would that cause a problem? Well, I've taught, I teach research and writing. I also am a librarian. So I see the problem with papers that have too broad of a topic. They can't go into depth because the focus is too broad. And I always tell my students a broad focus leads to a shallow paper because you don't have enough time in your paper to go into depth. So you need to narrow that focus or scope so that you can go into depth in your paper. Another problem I see at the library is people with too broad of a topic are going to have problems finding sources that are relevant or interesting because they don't know a lot about their topic, and so they don't know how to narrow it down. So my first slide here, I have problems with a broad topic and a broad search. I'm not sure why it's not showing the whole thing, but like I was just saying, if your topic is too broad, it's not going to be interesting or original when you write your paper. Narrowing down your topic to something really tightly focused is going to make your focus more unique. So you're not just writing the 100th paper on mental health issues or the 5 millionth paper on capital punishment, but you're going to have a unique focus that's interesting. And you want to look for a focus that maybe no one's ever written about before, especially if you're a grad student. But even if you're an undergraduate student, you want to have a unique thing that you're saying that's not something that's been said a million times. And then the next thing is my second bullet point here. If your topic is too broad, it's hard to do a good search for sources because you don't have specific terms you're searching for. So you want to find specific terminology to help narrow it down and get really what you need. It's hard to deal with too many results when you're doing research. Have you ever done research on Google or in the library and you get like 5,000 results or 100,000 results? Well, that's kind of overwhelming, right? We want to narrow it down a little more so we can deal with the number of sources that come up. And so the solution is to narrow your topic using specific terms, but also to learn tricks of using library research tools to narrow down your search. So I'm going to show you that in a minute. So the first step is to understand and narrow down your topic. So the solution to that is do background reading to become familiar. You have to be knowledgeable. If all you have is the assignment the professor gave you and you don't know anything more, or all you have is a phrase, you probably need to do more reading, figure out some different issues that are related to your topic. So that's my next point here. You need to find unsettled issues, which are things that require more discussion or research. So you want to find something that that people haven't fully figured out yet or haven't fully answered yet. So what are the unsettled questions, the debatable issues, or the mysterious questions people still have about your topic? Try to find something like that where you can shed light on it or do some bring some research to light that not everyone knows about yet. So try not to write about things that are obvious or settled, but things that are more unsettled or more mysterious. You want to find different angles on your topic. So I always recommend using the who, what, when, where, why, and how um, of the session, or sorry, of the topic. And so, like, for example, maybe you're interested in social media and its effects on people, but you could narrow that down to just talking about teenagers, or just teenage girls, or just teenage boys, or just moms that stay at home with their kids, or you can narrow it down to a who, meaning a certain group of people it relates to. You can narrow it down to a where, like a certain country or location, a certain when, like a time in history that you're researching, a certain why, like a certain cause you're looking at. Or so there's different ways to narrow down the topic using the who, what, when, where, why, and how as your parameters. Um, the next thing you want to do is understand all the terminology that's used to discuss your topic. So that's why it's good to do some preliminary research, maybe using Google, just to find out some basic terms to know how to do research. If you don't know the terms that people use when they're writing about your topic, you're not going to be able to do a good search. So try to pick up on those special terms that are technical terms, or just terms that philosophical terms maybe that people use when they're referring to your topic. You want to also read the major literature written on your topic. So that's called a literature review or an annotated bibliography, when you collect a bunch of sources to try to find out everything that's been written and all the different points of view on the topic. So it's important to do that about to understand what the issues that are still unsettled are. So remember, a narrow focus allows for depth of discussion and originality. A broad focus that's too wide, like trying to write about problems in education, way too broad, right? You could write 1,000 books on that, or at least one book. You want to narrow it down based on how long your project is. Is it 5 pages or 10 pages? That's fairly short, so you need a focused topic. Even if you're doing a dissertation, you still want a focused topic to make it more interesting to your readers and more unique. Okay, so the way to do that is to brainstorm everything you know about the topic and different angles or specific ways to narrow it down. So one that's been in the news a lot is transgenderism. So you want to develop some research questions that are really specific, of answers that you need to know about in order to, write about this topic. So for example, you could research, has the number of people identifying as transgender increased in recent years, and how much has it increased? Then you could ask why. If it's gone way up, why has it increased? There's many possible explanations. Is this a good thing or a harmful thing? You can also specify parameters, like who are you focusing on? Maybe prepubescent children identifying as trans, or pubescent teenagers, or people that are later in high school, or that are young adults in college. Maybe you want to focus on a group like that, or just girls or just boys. And so then you want to brainstorm all the possible terminology and issues related to this. So I listed a few off the top of my head. Social contagion theory, which is the idea that it's spreading through people imitating each other, like a trend. Gender affirming care, whether that's good or bad. A lot of people think it's a bad thing. Pronouns, like in Finland, a leading transgender doctor just came out and said he doesn't think young kids should be able to choose pronouns and do other things that are somewhat permanent. Self-identification, puberty blockers, that's been in the newspaper in the New York Times lately, whether those are good or bad. The difference between gender and sex, feminist responses to transgender issues, biblical texts that might be related, like the creation story or Psalm 139, and also counseling, pastoral, or parental responses, and the influence of social media on transgenderism. So these are just many different angles. You can just pick one of those as a way to focus the topic, and then research it and see what you can find, and also what you can think of yourself. Here's some more examples of narrowing a topic. So I have education reform, and then I listed a whole bunch of specific topics within that. How do we improve education? Well, you could just focus on kindergarten and first grade and teaching reading. You could just focus on high school, and should we have more trade school programs? Should we push so many kids towards college? Should we, even require high school? I saw that being discussed recently. There's so many different specific issues within that. World War I, if you're interested in history, the causes of it, nationalism, the effects of it, because it was the first really modern war. Why did it cause so much PTSD? Why did it cause trauma to the culture where it took place? Um, how did it challenge our ideas of what it means to fight war in like a moral or a civilized way? And then if you're in like a literature class, your teacher might say you need to research Julius Caesar, a play by Shakespeare. So you'd have to narrow that down. You could write about a theme in the play. For example, is it ever okay to assassinate someone in the name of freedom or for a political reason? Is it ever justified to commit an act of violence? Who's the tragic hero in the play? Where did Shakespeare get his sources for history when he's writing about history? Was pride and the real motivation of killing Julius Caesar, or was it really for freedom, like the characters say? So there's ways to narrow it down into certain angles. All right, then you want to, once you have your angle, your specific narrow down topics that you've brainstormed, see if they're researchable, see if you can find things on them. And if you can't, you might need to go to a different angle or a different term that you're using to research. So start doing a keyword search with very specific terms as much as you can in Primo, which is our main library search, in databases on your subject. So that means databases just related to your field that you're researching, whereas Primo kind of searches everything. And Google Scholar, which is also a very broad search. And then you want to be flexible. Again, if nothing's coming up, change your focus, change your terminology, or change the place you're looking if you're stuck somewhere. All right, so I'm going to show you those three places to look. So when you're in any of these online search tools, you want to use your facets and your filters, which are, it's kind of like when you're online shopping, you might narrow something down by like the size you wear or the color you want or the price you want or the store you want or the brand you want or something. So same thing at the library, you can narrow down your search by all kinds of different filters or facets is what we call them. And same thing in our databases. And so Primo is a new search tool that we have that searches most of our databases all at once. So it's a really good place to start. But can you think of what might be bad about searching all 400 databases that we have all at once? It might lead to getting way too many sources as a result, right? So it's good to do Primo and narrow it down, but it's also good to try databases by themselves because then it's a more narrow search already. Okay, so let's go to next tip I have is use the library's catalog system and indexing, meaning everything that we have through the library is all organized already. It's all organized by subject, is organized by title, by author, by year, by, there's a lot of different ways we have everything organized. So you can use all those different criteria as a way to narrow down what you need. So when you look at a source in our online Primo system, you will see you can click on the author's name and find everything that author has written, which might be really helpful if you find an author that's a real big expert in your field. Or you can click on the subject that it's listed under. So like maybe it's listed under the subject. Yeah, thanks, Tressa. So yeah, that's a good answer. A broad subject, and you click on the subject, it'll bring up all the articles on that subject. You can also add in the type or genre of source you want. Like if you just want a Bible commentary, type in Ephesians Bible commentary into the search and it will bring up all of our Bible commentaries. So, or film, if you need a film of Julius Caesar, type in Julius Caesar film to see how actors interpreted the play. So those are some ways to narrow down. And you notice this card catalog, that's how libraries used to look when you had to have a index card for every book's title, every book's author, and every book by subject. So there were 3 cards for every book. So you had a ton of these cards you had to go through in all these little cabinets and drawers. And it was a big system. Now that's all online, so it makes it a lot easier for you to search. But we still sort of organize things the same way. So you can use those aspects to search. The next thing is when you are looking for books, you can shelf browse, meaning all the books in the library are organized by topic. So like if you are looking for a book on marijuana legalization, whether it's a good thing or not, and you find one book, all the other books on that topic will be on the same shelf or the same few shelves. So you can just browse through all of them and narrow down right away to all the books on your topic. And you can do that online too. The Primo system will show you electronically which books would be on the shelf next to your book. So that's called virtual shelf browsing, or looking at suggested titles the system gives you on your subject. If you look at a book or an ebook, you can use the table of contents to look at the chapters in the beginning, or the index at the end to look at all the topics covered in the book. And then you can narrow down to just the pages you need. Rather than reading an entire book, you can find just the chapter or the page that you need on your subject. So that's a way to narrow it down quickly. The library is organized all by subject. So like if you know you're interested in art, you go to the N area, like you see here in the middle of the page, and you'll find all the books on art together. If you know you're interested in technology, you go to the T section. If you know you're interested in Bible studies, biblical studies, it's under BS, which is easy to remember. So all the books are organized in sections. And so if you find the section of the library, if you use a physical library, you can just kind of hang out there and see what's there, and you're already narrowing down your search. All right, when you're online, you want to play with different search terms, try different combinations, different synonyms, and be patient and persevere. Also ask librarians like myself for help. So we have a chat service online. We have submitting a question. You can email me with your questions and I can help you do research. And then this is what I'm going to show you next. I'm going to show you how to use operators and do an advanced search to narrow down your search. So if you see here, one trick is to use quotation marks to narrow down your search to exact phrases. So instead of searching, if you need the phrase quality of life in your research, put it in quotation marks, because you don't want to bring up every source that has the word life or the word quality, because you'll get way too much. But if you just need things with the exact phrase quality of life, put it in quotation marks. Or if you need Julius Caesar together and not just Caesar by itself or Julius by itself, that will instantly narrow down your search. My next tip there is use parentheses to enclose a subset of terms. Like if you have synonyms like capital punishment or the death penalty, put it in parentheses. So put capital punishment or the death penalty, meaning you want things with either term in them. And then you can put another term next to it, like ethical. Is it ethical or something like that? The next tip I have is use the word and that will require multiple terms come up in your sources. The fourth one there is think of keywords that are unique to your topic. So think of keywords that you think other writers will actually use, but that are very specific to your topic. And then the next tip is to use the word not to exclude things that are unrelated. So say you're looking up Abraham in the Bible, but you keep getting things on Abraham Lincoln, and you don't want things on Abraham Lincoln because that's not what you're researching. You can write not Lincoln to exclude everything that has the word Lincoln in it, and then maybe add in the word Bible, and that will focus it more. Next tip is allow for synonyms or alternatives with the word or. So if you have multiple synonyms, like you want to research either, let's see, who's an example? Well, I just gave one, capital punishment or the death penalty. So you'll bring up either one. So that will actually broaden your search, but it can be helpful if you're stuck or you're not getting enough sources. And you can also use asterisks to allow for multiple word endings. So that's like if you had the word ethic, but you want ethical and ethics and ethic, you can put a little star asterisk at the end to bring up different words. And these are the three things I'm going to show you. So Primo, the full A to Z database list, and Google Scholar, which are three great places to do research. So Google Scholar is obviously not part of the library, but you can link it to the library and it will search our collection. And so it will search sources that you already have paid access to as a student. So you can use it as it's a great search. Google Scholar, you can put a ton of terms in and it will still find what you need. Whereas Primo is a little more sensitive. You have to kind of get your terms more precise. Google Scholar, though, like regular Google, it's very forgiving. Like if you misspell a word or don't get it exactly right, or you need a synonym, it will sort of do that for you. So it's a very powerful search engine. So I recommend trying all of these. So let's start with Primo. And I want to first show you the library database. And feel free to raise your hand if you have a question. This is the library website. Oh, sorry. You probably can't see it. I will show you that in a minute, Joanna. Sorry, I need to go to sharing my screen. Just one second. Share content. Having trouble sharing my screen for some reason. Sorry about this. I haven't had this problem before. All right. So I first want to show you the library website, because this is what a lot of you will start with, and maybe you have this bookmarked, or maybe you want to bookmark this. Notice it has this search bar here. That will take you right to Primo. So you can even just click on it. You can also click to get to the databases, the research guides, or to ask a librarian something. So I'm going to just click on search, because I like to go right to the Primo page. Now notice here I can sign in the upper right, and that's what you always need to do when you want to use the databases or Primo or anything. You always need to sign in here in Primo. So I recommend bookmarking this page. Actually, this is Primo. And then just click on there, and you just sign in using your normal, just like signing into email. Now notice here there's already all these tabs and all these little tools here that can help you narrow down your search. So like here you can narrow down right away to what kind of source you want. Do you only want books, only want journals, only want articles? Journals means you're going to look up the entire journal. Article means just one article title. And then here you can look up by author, by title, like I was saying before. That's how everything is organized in our system. You can look it up in all these different ways. Or you can search anywhere in the record, which is usually what I do for a keyword search. You can also hit advanced search, and it will give you the option to add more detail to your search. So let's do an advanced search. Does anyone have a topic you want me to research? Or I can pick one if you want. Okay, what is cornerstone? Okay, so like in the Bible where it says Jesus is the cornerstone. Okay, well, I don't offhand know the Bible reference, so I'm going to just go to Google real quick and find out the Bible reference for that. Okay, so here it says Matthew 21:43. So that's one verse. So I'm just going to get some quick information from the internet here. Psalm 118, Ephesians 2:19. So there's a few references. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, so I can also research by scripture reference, and I'll show you that in a second. So I want Jesus and cornerstone in my search. So let's see what happens. So this is an advanced search. Notice you can change the operator here to or not. Remember, or gives you synonym options, like alternative terms, and not excludes something if there's something unrelated. Like if it keeps bringing up Cornerstone College and I don't want to look at Cornerstone College, I could say not college, something like that. Okay, so here, this is a big search. Notice 814 results. That's a lot, probably too much. So first you want to look through your initial results and see if any of them actually are relevant to what you're looking for. Did the search work, basically? So here it looks like this is about medicine, so that's not related. The third one here, the pillars and the cornerstone, that could be related. Second one is about business leadership. I'm going to say not so much with that one. So it looks like a lot of this stuff is not really related. So how do we narrow that down a bit? So one thing you could do is add a new line here and just add more terms and kind of use another word. Like I'm interested in the metaphor of the cornerstone, maybe. So how, like, why did so many authors in the Bible use that metaphor? What were they referring to? So this helped a little bit. See, these are a little more relevant because I added that term in. So I had to know some terminology to narrow it down. Now look at this one. This looks really relevant. Building on the rejected stone, the metaphorical construals of Psalm 118 in the New Testament. And then let's see. This one's in a different language, Dutch. So now let's go over here to the left side of the screen. I'm going to show you how to narrow down your results. So look where it says sort by. This is a filter. I can sort, if your professor says news sources only, you can do it by date newest. Or if you are researching something that's date sensitive, you might want like the newest newspaper article on it or something. I don't want that for this because it's not relevant to this, but I could narrow it by author if I'm looking for a certain author. I'm going to stay with relevance because I want something that matches my keywords as much as possible. So that's relevance. Now, what if you're an online student? I think some of you are. So maybe you don't have time to come to the library or get it sent to you in the mail, which you can do, by the way. We can send through interlibrary loan. If you click on one of these get it for me things, they can send it to you. But maybe I just want online sources so I can read them right now. So I'm going to click on that to narrow it down to online. And let's see, narrowed it down a lot to just two things. Let's see. So that narrowed it down too much. So I'm going to take that off because that you just want to play around with the facets. Okay, now I want to look, maybe my professor said I need peer-reviewed journals. So usually there's an option here to narrow down to peer-reviewed journals. You can also, this is all just books. So it's only 9 sources. And then you can narrow it down to the subjects. Like if a bunch of medical stuff comes up and you're doing Bible studies, just click on biblical study to narrow it down by subject. That's a really useful one if a lot of unrelated stuff is coming up. You can also narrow it down by date. Like I said, if it's a time sensitive topic like the transgender thing, you might want newer sources on recent developments, or you might want historical ones if you want to look at what they said in the past. You can also narrow it down by what database it comes from, because remember, Primo is searching most of our databases at once. And you can also narrow it by language. So I'm going to do it to English, and then I'm gonna clear this out, and let's see. I'm gonna try something a little different. Instead of cornerstone, maybe just stone. And builders, let's see what comes up here. You can just try different like verses. So 2 things came up here. The stone which the builders refused. And so every time you need a new search, you can just clear it out, hit new search or clear search. You could try the word rejected and put an asterisk on the end for reject or rejected, because that's sort of the image of the cornerstone, is that the builders threw it out and didn't want it. Like people threw Jesus away and didn't want him. But he becomes the chief cornerstone of everything. Ironically, God makes him that, even though we tried to throw him out. So just kind of researching a different term or theme that might be related. So this brings up some interesting things. Rejection. And so again, here you can narrow it down by book chapters, which are kind of the same thing as journal articles. You can narrow it down to ebooks if you want to read the book instantaneously. By date, notice it goes all the way back to 1500, and so you could read older books on it or newer ones. You can narrow it down to just things on religion or Christianity, instead of science. And then here, peer-reviewed journals is a really good one to use if your teacher requires that, especially, which most professors have some requirement like that. Now, what if I want a physical book, or just to see what we have physically in the library? I can click on Held by Library in Print to narrow it down. And then these are physical books we have, and we have a really good collection of books on the Bible and on religion. So this is something you might want to do even if you live in a different place. So if you want to get this book and you live somewhere else, you can just click on it and then click on a hold request, or request a PDF scan of just a chapter of the book sent to you on email. If you want the whole book mailed to you, you click on hold request. So that's just a little tip for using interlibrary loan. Now, if you wanted to get the book in person, it has the call number right here, and you could go find it in the library. Okay, so this is Primo. Now notice at the top of Primo, you can also click on the database list to get there. You can look at our special collections, which we have here, of like historical documents and special films that our students have made. You can click on magazine and journal or newspaper if you're looking for those kinds of articles by the title of the publication, like the articles in the New York Times, or the articles in a certain journal or something. Then you can click up there to find those. So this is Primo. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I'm going to also show you the full database list. So I click on here to get to that. This is the full database list. It's the A to Z list. We have almost 400 databases that your tuition subscribes to. So it's kind of a lot. It needs to be narrowed down, right? So how do you narrow it down? Well, you could go through here and try to read through every description of every database. And that's fine to do, just to kind of get familiar with what we have. So this is all the databases that start with A. So this is a huge list. I'll show you the whole list. It goes all the way down to Z at the bottom. You can click on the letter if you know the name of the database you're looking for, and you'll become more familiar with the ones that relate to your field. But look here, this is called research guides over on the right side. This is how to narrow down to just the databases you need for the class that you're in or the paper that you're writing. So the student who shared a topic, hers was on the Bible, so she clicked on divinity and religion to find just the databases on that. What other topics are you guys writing about? Okay, nuclear weapons. All right, so let's go over to here. So I'm going to say that could either be history or it could be national security if you were doing like a current study of that. But I'm going to go for history. Okay, childhood experiences and impact on marriage. Okay, you guys have a lot of good topics here. Leadership. Okay, so if you click on history, notice this is your history research guide. If you're a history major or you're writing a history paper, I would bookmark this page or go back to this database list and just click on this. And you'll find just our databases on history, which are a lot. But say you're doing like an American history topic on nuclear weapons, you'd find, just the sources related to America, like see this database called America History and Life, EBSCO. So you go into here and you're just going to search, it's just going to bring up articles related to history. So it's already narrowed down for you. So like nuclear weapons, but you'd want to add more terms because that's a very broad subject. So you could add Cold War, or you could add, the arms race, or you could add Hiroshima or Japan or World War II, something like that, to narrow it down more, depending on what historical topic you're researching. And then here, the database itself allows you to narrow down, like if you don't want book reviews, you can click exclude book reviews if you only want full articles. If you only want full text articles, you can click on that. If you only want English language articles, you can do that. So and notice it has similar like operators to Primo. And EBSCO is a really good search, and it will do focus search for you, so it'll already be sort of narrowed down. So let's just see if I wanted to do Hiroshima and Nagasaki and ethical questions about that. So see how I've narrowed it down to a certain angle on that, and that's actually a little bit too specific. So maybe I'll take out the word weapon and ethical questions. So you just got to play with it till you get the right amount of narrowness. So this brought up 117 things. And if I'm interested in ethical questions about how we use nuclear weapons, this looks like it's relevant right here. So then I click on it to find the PDF, and I've instantly got the article to read. And I can email it to myself. I can send myself the link, copy the link. I can start a account in EBSCO and save it to a folder. And then it also will suggest other articles that are related. Okay. So, and you can just play with different terms. You can narrow it down over here. Like if you only want magazines or you only want academic journals, you can narrow down there. All right. So another topic that was mentioned was adverse childhood experiences and the effects on marriage. So for that, I would say psychology databases right here, especially any database that's called APA or this ProQuest psychology database. The ones at the top of the list here are going to be really good. So let's just try there. And this is another EBSCO database. So let's try, just try exactly what you said and see, because that is a technical term that they use. Effect on marriage. So that was pretty narrow search. And we have one that came up, and it talks about the connection with intimate partner violence. But it's a little bit narrow, too narrow. Let's see if this will help a little bit. So that brought up two things. But if you, that's a very good narrow search in a way, because these both look relevant. So you found two things already that are relevant to you. And then if you click on this, you'll see all the authors. And maybe these authors are experts on this topic, so you can click on their name and find other things by them. You can also, down here, it's listed by subject. So look, childhood adversity. You can click on that and find all the articles in this database about just that subject. So that's already narrowed down, because every database and the library have all indexed these articles and books for you. They've organized them into categories and subjects. So make use of that, because there's librarians that have done this for you, have organized them into subjects that you can easily find. All right, and then let's see, how about, I'll show you the religion databases. So the ATLA religion database is one of my favorites. Again, you can see it's all owned by EBSCO, and so it has the same sort of interface here of how you do searches. But this one has a special search up in the top left called scripture. So like I mentioned Genesis and the creation story. If I click on this, it expands Genesis to all the chapters of Genesis. If I click on that, it expands the chapter to all the verses, and I can go back to the previous level. And if I click on the blue link, it will show me all the articles on just that chapter of scripture or just that verse. So like, say I want to find all the articles on chapter 1 of Genesis. How many do you think there'll be? There's over 2,000 in just this database. So that's a lot, right? Notice that they're in other languages as well. So I might want to narrow it to English, right? And that helps narrow down some. Say I want just academic journals, although don't forget about books. Books are important as well. And then now it's narrowed it down by about 50%, so that helps. All right, so then here it has like the creator's delight, but it's still not a very specific search, because it's just everything on Genesis chapter 1. So what if I want to look up gender? So I can add a term there to narrow it down more. So now it's narrowed down to 42. And maybe I want to do or sex or male or female or man or woman, and just bring up anything with any of those terms. So that brought it up again to 319 results. So these all look interesting. Notice some of them are full text, like they give you the article right away with the PDF. Some are not. So like if we don't own it, you can still request it through interlibrary loan. It's just telling you about the article, even if we don't know about, even if we don't have it. But you can click on the author, you can click on the subject, and so on. All right, so let's go over to Google Scholar, unless you have questions about databases. But I recommend using the research guides that I showed you here. These are like, do all of you see all your subjects covered in this list, or does anyone need a different subject? In this list of green links right here, is your subject that you're studying covered there? Or does anyone have one that's not covered? Okay. Well, let me know, and I can show you. There's more guides to more subjects here. There's a whole bunch. So you can see all these different guides. Okay. So let's go over to Google Scholar. So Google Scholar, like I said, is a really powerful search because you can put in a whole bunch of specific terms. So you can get a really narrow search. So give me a very specific topic, and we'll see. Does anyone have their topic already sort of narrowed down? We have Yvette's topic. We could use that again. The security dilemma of international relations. Okay, impact of trauma on African American marriages. Okay, let's try both of these marriage questions. So notice I'm putting a lot of words in here. It's going to be a little bit more forgiving than Primo. Primo is like you kind of want to get your terms just right. And Primo is great because it's right in our library system. But notice this. I also have Google Scholar linked to the library, and see, it tells me right away which articles we have, and it links me right to them. So I can get directly in using these blue links into our library. Now, someone asked earlier, how do you link Google Scholar? Go up to this little drop-down hamburger menu that's 3 lines up here. Come down to settings, and then library links, and then search for Regent Library. You can also search for any other libraries that you want to link and that you have access to, like maybe your undergrad institution or whatever. But when I have Regent set here, I clicked on it, it will instantly show me which sources we have, okay? So like I can click on, let's try this one. Effects of positive and negative childhood experiences on adult family health. That sounds directly relevant, right? To, so I'll click on view it at regent.edu. And it will bring me over to our system and show me how to get to it. It looks like it's in the ProQuest database. So that's cool. You can use Google Scholar to search all of our databases. And notice it is also bringing up other things from that same, I think from the same journal. Yeah. So you can look through other articles in that journal as well. But it has the full text of a lot of these articles. All right. So you might have to research for it sometimes when you go over to the database, just put in the title. And then the other one was from Yvette, Impact of Trauma in African American Marriages. So let's go over and do that one. Notice it doesn't care as much if I misspell. And I put a little star here so I can get marriage or marriages. Okay, so let's see if these are relevant. Past and present societal influences, maybe. See, these are not exactly relevant. So I think I'm going to add a word in here. Sometimes you just have to play around with the words. I think maybe childhood trauma on marriage. Okay, so yeah, so this looks a little more relevant. So it's talking about, yeah, here's one, childhood trauma and marital outcomes in adulthood. Now, it's possible you'll find you know, a narrow focus within the search. Like this one is about child abuse, meaning like if you were abused as a childhood and had that trauma, are you more likely to then abuse your own children when you get older? So maybe that strikes your fancy and you're like, that is a way I want to focus my topic more and make it more specific. Or you might realize there's not a lot written on your topic, so you might have to kind of change your focus. Or you might, like, if you wanted to focus on African American marriage, you could still use this article, which is not specifically about African American, but you could still sort of take some of the ideas and maybe apply it to your subject as well, even if it's not directly including all the terms that you looked for. So notice here it has all the links to show that we do own all these articles in our library already. Even if we didn't, you could go back over to Primo and request through interlibrary loan any articles you find on the internet or anywhere. So see this white bar here where it says still didn't find what you need? Click here to create an interlibrary loan request. So if you find an article that we don't have, you can do that to request it, and it will come right to your account up here in the upper right, where you can read any sources that are sent to you electronically, or you can have books that are physical books mailed to you through that as well. All right, does anyone have questions? Okay, so let me go back to my files. So just remember to bookmark Primo and use all those facets and filters on the left side. Use your databases for your subject and use those research guides that the librarians have made to narrow down just for your subject. And then third, use Google Scholar. So these are all three really good tools. I would try each one of them to make sure you're getting a really focused search. Any questions? So I'll put up those. Yes, it is being recorded. And I'm going to post the recording. We have a library website about workshops. So if you just Google Regent University Library workshops, I'll put the video up there. But these are good, all good links that I showed you. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I see everyone. So Michael says it is useful to review how to find and cite sources, but will we be discussing how to narrow? Sorry. Yeah, that was the first couple, beginning of the workshop, I talked about how to narrow your topic by brainstorming different angles and using like a who, what, when, where, why, and how facets. Joanna says, how would I find leadership quotes? Okay, and Brittany is asking about the Iliad login. Brittany, we have a new interlibrary loan system as of this week. We switched over to Primo interlibrary loan, so you don't need to use Iliad anymore. You can still log in if you need to see something in there, but you can make requests for ILL through Primo now, so it's a little bit easier now. Joanna, I'm not sure what you're asking about leadership quotes. What are you looking for? Just quotes about what it means to be a good leader, maybe? And Michael, we did talk about narrowing topics at the beginning. Yes, I can, Madi, just a sec. Okay, Madi, here's the link to the workshops page where the videos are going to be. Okay, and then Joanna, your question about I mean, I would just, if you just need general quotes, you could search on the internet for that. We also have books that are like books of quotations collected. So I put a link to an internet search, but I would also search Primo, which has all of our books and all of our articles. So like you could look for book of quotations and leadership. Okay, Yvette, I think you can download this PowerPoint from here. Okay, and okay, so Joanna, I did find in Primo a book for you on leadership quotes. It's called Leadership Quotations from the World's Greatest Motivators by Robert Fitton, and I will put the link here for that. Okay, Joanna, so that link right there should take you to that book and to other sources on leadership quotations that we have in the library. And then somebody else had a question about okay, Tressa was talking about finding ebooks. So Tressa, we do have a big collection of ebooks. Do you want help finding them in Primo specifically, or because you can always narrow down your search to just ebooks we have.